Hello YouTube viewers, thanks for selecting this video. In part one of the Alaskan Placer gold refining, I used bleach and hydrochloric acid. And the reason I did this was because some folks don't have access to nitric acid. So I wanted to show an alternate method to get the pure gold out of the placer gold. But in that video, if you watched part one, you'll have noticed that I ended up with some placer gold left over. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to go ahead and refine that using the inquartation with silver and then parting with dilute nitric, and then I'll dissolve the resulting pure gold with nitric acid. And this is the placer gold that we had left over, 5.8 grams. I'll take the placer gold off the scale here, and we're going to go ahead and put it into a little melt dish here. And then we'll take it out. Before I do the melt, I wanted to demonstrate the proper use of the safety equipment here. I've got a heavy cotton outer garment on to protect my arms. I'll be using a P95 3M respirator. It just filters out particulate matter. Protects me from the smoke off of this. Don't want to be breathing the fumes off this molten metal. Got a pair of heavy gloves here, and then I've got a visor with a tinted shield on it to shield my eyes. That entire melt sequence took less than 2 minutes, and this bead came out really nice. I mean, it's got a nice shine to it. It does have a little bit of foreign material there on the side. You can see that frosty looking area on the side of the button. Other than that thing, I can almost see myself in this thing. It's pretty nice clean gold for coming right out of the ground like it did. Now I'm going to do a test to see what the carat of the gold is. That button came out real nice like I pointed out. I've got some test needles here. 18, 14, 12, 10, and 8 karat gold known samples on the end of them. I got a touchstone and I got some 22K test acid. I'm going to go ahead and scratch off some of the material off the gold bead onto my touchstone here. Then I'm going to go ahead and scratch off 18K right next to it. And right next to that, I'm going to put 14 on. I think that's about all we'll need. Okay, I had a tough time getting the camera angle right here so you can see the color change. We'll go ahead and put the acid on now and see what kind of test result we get here. Looks like the 14K, which is this one right here on the end, it's completely gone already. The 18K is still there. But it's real faint. I don't know if you can see that or not, but so I'd say the gold is probably up around above 18K. Based on that test result, I'm going to call this bead 19K. And what I'll do now is calculate how much sterling silver I need to add to this, alloy it together, to get the gold down around 6K or 25% gold. All right, to calculate how much silver I'm going to need, I weigh the button. The button is 5.7 grams. So I got 19K button here. I'm calling it 19K. So I'll take 19K divided by 24K, which is pure gold, which means that I'll have 79% pure gold in that button. So I take that weight of the button, multiply it by 0.7916, and I come up with 4.51 grams of pure gold in that 5.7 gram button. So now I got 4.51 grams of pure gold. I'm going to multiply that by 3 because I want 25% gold and 75% silver. That equals 13.53 grams of silver. Now keep in mind, I've got a 5.7 gram button that's only 4.51 grams of pure gold in it. That means that there is some excess metal in here that's not gold. To find out how much, I subtract the weight of the button from the weight of the pure gold that I calculated is in that button, and I come up with 1.19 grams of excess metals in this that's not gold. So now what I need to do is subtract that amount from the amount of silver that I calculated, and I get 12.34 grams of silver. This is how much silver I need. But what I always do, so that I don't have excess silver, because excess silver will cause the gold to crumble or go to powder, or worse yet, turn into colloidal gold, and you can never get that. So I reduce the amount of silver I add by 5%. I multiply it by 0.95, and I come up with 11.72 grams of silver. This is how much silver I'll add to the gold button here to get a proper inquartation. I'm going to add some silver to the gold now. I put the dish on, put the bead in, tear the scale to 0. Then I start adding silver. I need 11.72 grams. Just start adding some pieces of sterling silver here that I already had set aside. Here's 8, 9.5, 10, 10.7. That's 11.5. That's close enough. I'm going to go ahead and go with that. I've got my metal out here now. I'm going to go ahead and melt it. I'll stir it with a graphite rod. Then I'll pour the alloy into a metal container of tap water. And that's what our recorded gold is going to look like. Next, I'll empty out the tap water. and add the gold to the beaker here. Now I'll go ahead and give it a quick rinse with some distilled water. Then I'm going to add about 100 ml of distilled water for the reaction. Yeah, I've got the imported gold in a beaker. I've got a cover on it. I'm going to go ahead and add some, there's about 100 ml of distilled water in there with it. I'm going to add some nitric acid now. I'm going to go ahead and get the base metals out of there. I'm adding about 50-75 ml of nitric acid there. And as you can see, I get an immediate reaction. The gold turns color. I'll put this on the heat and we'll crank it up about medium, a little bit past medium, and we're just going to let this go. All right, this first dilute nitric acid treatment's been going on now about, it's been in there boiling about an hour. I'm gonna go ahead and pour this solution off into my silver jar over here, and I'll put some fresh nitric acid and continue with the extraction. I'm extracting the base metals and the silver out of this with dilute nitric acid. And if you look down in there, you'll see that the gold is a brown looking color. That's what I want to see. Put some more water in here now. And then I'm going to add some more nitric acid. Continue with the extraction. I got about 50 ml of water in there. I'm going to add another 50 ml of nitric acid. Put the cover on, let it boil. If you look back behind me there, you'll see that the beaker is boiling. There's no brown fumes being emanated from the reaction, and that's a good indication that all the base metals and silver have been dissolved. So now I'm going to go ahead and transfer that hot nitric acid out of there. I'm going to save it. I'm going to put it in this bottle right here and save it for my next reaction. I'm going to pour off this dilute nitric acid. I'm going to save it because it can be used to dissolve more base metals and silver on the next batch that I do. See how clear the acid is? That means all the silver and the base metals have been removed from this gold that we imported. I'm using distilled water here. Anytime we're working with silver, we're going to be using distilled water because the chlorides in tap water will react with the silver and form silver chloride, and that could cause some filtering problems later on. And here's what our imported gold looks like now. All the silver and the base metals have been extracted with the dilute nitric acid treatments, and that right there is almost pure gold, probably 990 to 995. Over here, this is the dilute nitric acid from the last extraction. As you can see, it's still pretty clear. It still has the ability to dissolve base metals. I'll use it for my my next batch of imported gold. Back here's my silver jar. The silver jar has silver and copper in it. In this next segment of video, I'm going to go ahead and dissolve the gold now using aqua regia. But instead of pre-mixing the aqua regia, I'm going to add hydrochloric acid only to the gold. Then I'm going to put it on the heat it up, and then I'm going to add small doses of nitric acid to form aqua regia in the beaker, and until all the gold is gone. By doing it this way, I can carefully control the amount of nitric acid going into the reaction. And so I won't have any nitric acid to deal with after I've got all the gold dissolved. Now I'll add about 50 ml of hydrochloric acid to the gold. This is a 3 ml disposable pipette. I'm going to take and fill out about 2.5 ml of nitric acid and add it to the gold. I'll put the cover on the gold, and you can see the reaction's already started there. Put it on the heat. I got the heat turned down on low. Okay, I've got 50 ml of hydrochloric acid on the gold now, and about 2.5 ml of nitric acid in there. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and add some concentrated sulfuric acid, just a few drops, to precipitate out any lead that might be present. Every bit of the gold has been dissolved now using just a total of 3 ml of nitric acid, 50 ml of hydrochloric acid, and 3 ml of nitric, and everything's gone into solution now. If I had to pick one thing in refining that's been the most beneficial and useful to me, it's the incremental dosing of nitric acid over mixing or pre-mixing aqua regia. Incremental dosing allows me to put in just enough nitric to dissolve all the gold. Then I don't have to worry about removing excess nitric after I've dissolved everything. Now I'm going to add an ice cube to cool the solution down so I can filter it. Got the solution cooled down. I'm going to go ahead and filter it now through my vacuum filtration here. I can tell by how clear this is, it's going to come out. It's going to be real pure gold. Now that took about 20 seconds to pull through that filter. There's some tiny black specks of material in the filter there, so that was some real clean gold. Transfer this over to the fume hood now, so we can precipitate the pure gold out of the solution. I'll transfer the gold solution to a clean beaker here. Now I'll add some stump out, which is sodium metabisulfite, and precipitate the pure gold. Well, I've got the gold precipitated now. I can tell by the clarity of the liquid it's going to be fairly high purity, probably above 995. I'm going to go ahead and let this settle now, and then we'll get it in a filter paper and melt it up, and then I'll combine it with the gold bead from the first video, and we'll get a total yield on the 10.3 grams of placer gold that I received. Okay, the gold's been settling now for about 45 minutes, an hour or so, I guess. And you can see the liquid is very clear. Nothing in that solution but gold, and it's all dropped. Go ahead and get it in a filter paper now and melt it up into a button. Okay, I'm going to start by decanting the waste solution into my stock pot. It's okay if a little bit of gold goes in there. I'm going to recover that stock pot one of these days anyway. Then I will get the gold down into the filter here. Now I'll rinse the gold powder in the filter with a little bit of hydrochloric acid. Now I'll rinse the gold powder down into the bottom of the filter with some distilled water. Now I'll transfer the gold to the little melt dish here, filter paper and all, still wet. I'm going to add a little bit of borax. Borax will help glue that paper into the melt dish so I don't lose any gold. I've got my mask on now. I'm going to go ahead and light the torch and do the melt. I've got the gold bead soaking in some hot dilute sulfuric acid to remove the borax that was clinging to it. All right, this piece of gold is absolutely gorgeous. It's got a nice bright mirror finish. I'm going to go ahead and put it with the other one that I refined from video number 1, from part 1. Go ahead and weigh them both together. This one was from part 1. It's 3.6 grams, and then here's the second bead that we got today. Total of 8.3 grams total. Okay, I've written it all down on this paper here to determine the total yield. 8.3 grams, so we got 8.3 divided by 10.3, which is what the weight was when I got the placer gold. That equals 0.8058, or 80.5%. I did a little calculation here and determined that the placer gold, the Alaskan Placer gold, the 10.3 grams that I received, is going to calculate out to be 19.3 karat gold. Okay, that'll conclude the two-part series on refining Alaskan Placer gold. We've got a nice yield of 80.5%, which turned out to be 19.3 K gold. So good clean gold from up there in Alaska. Hope you learned something. Appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. I'd like to put a plug in for what's coming up. I got some catalytic converter beads that I'll be trying to extract the platinum group metals on next. And also this bead that we refined this evening, I'll be putting that on eBay under a separate listing and putting that up for bids too. So if you want to go ahead and bid on that, my username is Bathelous, B-A-F-E-L-O-U-S. Also, I'll be doing the time to go ahead and do this stock pot video. That's about, that thing will be on there 3 years here in about 2 or 3 months. Accumulation of gold refining waste. I'm going to go ahead and try to get that posted after I get the platinum video done. So I'd like to take this time here to thank all my subscribers. I appreciate y'all being patient with me while I was absent there for a while, but hopefully I'm going to be starting to crank out some videos here and get some knowledge out there about gold refining and platinum refining and silver refining. So thanks.